Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to United in Strengths, which is an initiative of the VIA Institute on Character. And I'm Ryan Niemiec, and here with Ruth Pierce. And we're delighted to be here with you again, and delighted to be offering these experiences each week. And we have our 3-word tagline that's always helpful, I think, to review. So the tagline for these sessions, which is breathe, remember, connect. And so we can pause to breathe throughout our day, throughout our stressors, throughout the good things, so that we can appreciate those things even more and learn from the struggles and grow from them. And that second word is remember. And that's really to remind ourselves that we have these 24 character strengths that we can turn to. It's easy to forget them. We're all blind to our strengths in one way or another. And so when we can set ways for us to remember to turn to our character strengths. And third, we connect. So this is our opportunity to connect with one another, to connect more in our communities, in our life. So those are the 3 of the areas that we always focus on in every one of these sessions. And so today, this week, we are focusing on a particular character strength. We know that the community here tends to really like it when we zone in and zero in on one particular character strength. So we've done that for 8 or 9, maybe 10 strengths at this point. We did kindness a couple weeks ago. And so today, we will do gratitude. And we know that the celebration of the Thanksgiving holiday is not celebrated around the world. It's limited to certain cultures, and some cultures actually celebrate Thanksgiving on a different day of the month, different months. But we're just using that as a trigger for us to talk about the character strength of gratitude, since gratitude is going to be relevant to 100% of us, whether we're celebrating a holiday for it or not. So let's do what we do in these specific character strength sessions, where we review some of the concepts related to the strength. We take time to share a little bit of some of the research on that strength and review some practices. And then we have our community experience at the end, where we share with one another our comments or our questions, our thoughts. So that'll be our session. And by the way, we'll actually have a meditation I'm very excited about. I've not led this one before. I've led gratitude meditations, but not this one. So so be sure to stay on for that. You can tune me out for the next 20 minutes or so, and then come back in about 20-25 minutes. So here we're talking about gratitude. Now, character strengths, in one way we can look at character strengths is they're what we can count on in other people, if we think about this. So if somebody's high in hope, we can really count on them, and probably unconsciously we count on them to be able to find silver linings, to be able to find the good when we're struggling. We might not even be aware of it, but we turn to hopeful people, our hopeful friends or family members, when we know we need some encouragement. We can count on them. If you're high in leadership, or someone in your life is high in leadership, we can count on them to be pretty good at being able to paint a vision for us, to be able to organize a group of people around an idea. If you're someone in your life is really high in curiosity, you can count on them to be good at asking questions, asking you questions, kind of being equal in terms of a back and forth of mutual asking of questions. Not just spending all the time doing all the talking, but it's an equal trade back and forth with questioning. For people that are high in kindness, we can count on them to be there for us when we really need a favor. And so with gratitude, we can very easily come up with people in our life probably who are very grateful people. And we can probably count on those people who are very grateful to be pretty positive oriented and probably supportive people most of the time. And obviously appreciative people. When we do things for them, they're going to show that appreciation in some way. And sometimes, fairly grounded. We can probably count on them to be fairly grounded in a lot of ways in how they operate. So when I think of people high in gratitude, the first person I probably think of would be my mother, who's always, whenever she's taken the VIA survey, gratitude has always been her highest strength. And in the last time she took it, she had a 5.0 raw score, which means she answered a 5 to every question of gratitude. So it's as high as you can possibly be with that particular character strength. And I would say that describes her. She's generally, in conversation with me, very, very positive and super supportive and appreciative, and is going to be kind of a rock of support for me in that way. You know, I can almost count on it's almost like an automatic appreciation that can just kind of flow from her. So it's interesting to think about the people in your life who's your gratitude person. And you might be a gratitude person too, but who do you turn to in that way? What can you count on for their particular gratitude? And so if we think about what does gratitude mean, you know, it's one of the most obvious of the character strengths. You know, there's not much definition needed. And it almost gets a little redundant to define gratitude. It's people that are being grateful. So it's people that are being thankful for things that happen. Now, some researchers have differentiated two bigger categories of gratitude. That there's the generalized gratitude, which is when you or I or people in your life, when we're sort of expressing a sense of thankfulness in a general way, like we're thankful to be alive. Right? So I don't know if some of you kind of woke up this morning and maybe you don't feel so good or you feel a little off, but still grateful that you're here, that you're alive. And then other days you might wake up feeling really good and still grateful that you're here. That's a generalized gratitude. Grateful that you can connect with other people, grateful that you can do your work, or grateful that you can have friends and that sort of thing. And then another type of gratitude is a really specific gratitude. And that's what we normally think of with gratitude. And this is where we or somebody else expresses a sense of thanks when we receive or they receive a gift or a supportive act, an act of kindness, and we somehow convey with words or maybe with a hug that we're really grateful that they gave us that gift, they gave us that surprise, they were there to help us fix something that was broken in our house, they were supportive of us when we were going through a rough time. So that would be a more specific type of gratitude when we express that appreciation. Now, an interesting thing I want to bring us back to, do you remember, for those of you that were with us, you know, really since the beginning of these sessions, I think it was our second month, maybe, end of the first month, second month, so kind of around April, we had a session with James and Susie Pawelski on relationships. And, you know, they're experts on bringing character strengths into intimate relationships. So if not, go back and see that session. But they were talking in their session about how is gratitude received. And we can think about this, by the way, for any of the character strengths. So often we think of the character strengths, and rightfully so, as what we're bringing forth. So we're bringing forth kindness to somebody, or curiosity, or creativity. We're expressing it. But how do you receive curiosity from somebody else? How do you receive kindness? How do you receive the forgiveness that someone's giving you? And so on across the 24 strengths. So how do you receive gratitude? If somebody says to you, gosh, I was so appreciative of all the time that you spent with me and helping me in so many different ways. You were there for me. And, you know, I don't know how I would have got through it without you. I thank you so much for being there. And then do you receive gratitude? I mean, how do you receive it? Do you just sort of, yeah, fine. It was nothing. Don't worry about it. Or do you just kind of blow it off? Like you don't even acknowledge it? Many people don't even acknowledge it when gratitude is being expressed to them. It's almost as if it's just a trite thing. They just kind of ignore it. Or do you say, well, you know, it's kind of like a gratitude for the gratitude. You know, you express appreciation. Oh, yes. Well, thank you for saying that. And it was my pleasure and honor to be there with you when you were really, really struggling. And you're really important to me. I wanted to be there for you. You know, you kind of basically honor what they are saying to you. So you're honoring that strength that they were just expressing. You're honoring that gratitude. So there really hasn't been much research on the receiving. of character strengths. It's a concept that we at VIA and others like James and Susie are just starting to play around with and think about. But I think that's relevant for us this week, those that are celebrating Thanksgiving, but also those that aren't, to be thinking about perhaps if you are someone that's celebrating Thanksgiving and hopefully in a nice social, physical distancing sort of way, how will you receive gratitude? Because no doubt people will say thank you. If there's one day that they say thank you, it's on Thanksgiving Day, and they'll somehow convey gratitude to you. How will you receive that gratitude? Can you honor that and really be mindful of your own experience as you're receiving that? So that's just a question for all of us to be thinking about. Now, it's in these kinds of sessions, I on the specific strengths, I always like talking a little bit about the continuum of character strengths. So for any of the character strengths, we have this continuum of overuse and underuse. So we can go too far with any of the strengths and we overuse them and we're somehow bringing about a negative situation, or we can underuse the strength and we're perhaps mindless to even using the strength. And we're kind of always looking for that middle ground, that middle way, that strength zone. Sometimes we call that the optimal use or the golden mean or mindful strengths use. Kind of goes by different phrases at VIA, but we're looking for that middle ground between too much and too little. So again, this plays out for all the strengths. So for gratitude, the underuse of character strengths, or the underuse of gratitude, not bringing forth enough gratitude in a particular relationship or in a situation, in an obvious way would simply just be unappreciative, but it also could be a person who's acting entitled, acting as if they deserve the gift or they deserve the favor, so they don't need to express gratitude. They don't need to express thanks. So that could be partly the the underuse of gratitude. Sometimes it's just a simple oversight, that maybe it just didn't occur to them to express gratitude. So there can be many different reasons for an underuse. Another reason is this idea of taking things for granted. That this can apply to all the character strengths as well, that we can take any of the character strengths for granted. So we could very easily take gratitude for granted and not feel we need to appreciate it, not feel we need to receive it, and so on. So part of the experience of trying to mindfully express a character strength is to move from unawareness of it and not taking it for granted and not just assuming it, but actually trying to embody it and express it in a deep way. Now, what about the other side of the continuum of gratitude, the overuse of gratitude? This isn't as obvious, and it could seem a little weird almost to say, well, can you overuse being grateful? No, more people should try to be grateful to more things in their life. And so I would certainly say underuse is a bigger problem than overuse. There's no doubt about it. The underuse, is pretty rampant in the world. And within ourselves, we might underuse our gratitude in certain situations or with certain people. Maybe with some people, we're really good at expressing it. Other people, we're not so good at it. So probably all of us have some growth to do on the underuse of gratitude. Probably, I would say 100% of us, myself included. But the overuse, so too much gratitude, is there such a thing? And we would think there is, just as there is for all the 24. So that's one example of this, is when a person is what's called effusive with their gratitude, where a bit over the top with it and quick to say so much gratitude and so much appreciation, maybe for something that was very small, or maybe for somebody didn't even do anything and they're expressing it. What can happen is when someone is effusive and over the top with their gratitude, they can then appear to be disingenuous in that sense, because they're just quick to say thank you, oh my gosh, thank you so much, and it's not really a balanced way. It's a little over the top. I could think of one person that I used to work with who, she would be effusive in her gratitude. She would be, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful that you connected me with that person. I'm so thankful that you gave me that idea. I'm so thankful for this and for that. But then she would never follow through with any of the things that she was being thankful for, any of the connections that were made, or any of the introductions, or any of the connections. There was no follow through, but there was this effusive gratitude on the front end. So that then, made her then appear to be less genuine in the gratitude. And by the way, that person's strength profile also showed that gratitude actually was not a top strength for that person, despite the kind of effusiveness. So in that way, gratitude might be it might be overuse. It might be sort of maybe a defense mechanism of some kind for that person, how they relate to people. So again, not as common as underuse, and I would say not as big of a deal as underuse. As we know from the research in general, underuse of character strengths for most outcomes is worse than overuse. So I would give more attention to underuse for us than to try to disentangle overuse in that situation. So a little bit, we talked last week, and we've talked about this in many different weeks, that there are certain strengths that are more connected with happiness than others, and gratitude is one of those strengths that's more connected with happiness than other strengths. So it's in the top 5 in study after study, being linked with happiness, and has been shown to cause happiness when it's focused on. Now, a recent study, actually, because there's been a lot of people in positive psychology and in similar fields that make a big deal out of gratitude. It's become sort of a novel intervention, a novel thing to focus on in the last, I'd say, 15, 18 years. But the research actually does not show it to be that strong of an intervention. Now, don't get me wrong, it can be transformative to change your mindset to be very, very grateful. And it's a wonderful character strength to have. But when we look specifically at intervention studies and trying to do certain gratitude practices, there's a small benefit from it. The researchers would say it has positive but limited potential, is one of the ways that this group of researchers looked at it. And they were looking at all of the gratitude studies that had been done, like looking at them all together. So that's it. So that's a limitation. We at VIA try to be as honest as we can about the science. So not just kind of running around saying that every single strength is always amazing all the time. There's going to be limitations to every strength. But gratitude has been shown in some studies to help people with physical ailments, physical problems. It's sort of, I think of it as in many ways, in a positive way, as a holistic strength. Like it's holistically beneficial. Is maybe what I'm trying to say. Holistically beneficial, because it's beneficial in a couple studies toward physical health. It's beneficial in some studies for psychological, emotional health. Might not be huge, but some benefit. And then it's obviously has a strong social element to it. So it's a social benefit, a social connector. Some strengths are much better at connecting us with one another than other strengths, and gratitude is one of those. So it's a sort of a holistically beneficial strength. Now, it's interesting to look at the strengths that are most connected with gratitude. So for those of us wanting to boost up gratitude, I'll offer some of those specific interventions here in a moment. But also what you can do is turn to other character strengths that are naturally highly correlated or connected with gratitude. So the strengths most connected with gratitude are kindness, love, hope, spirituality, and zest. So a possibility, and this isn't a science-based intervention, but a possibility that you could play around with is thinking about how you can use those other strengths to be more grateful. In other words, I'll give you some examples. So in other words, using one of those 5 strengths to activate your gratitude. And again, those strengths were kindness, love, hope, spirituality, and zest. So for example, maybe I can show my gratitude by being kind to somebody. So the activity, and again, I'm just making this activity up based on the high correlation here. You could think of someone that you're grateful for, right? We could all do that right now. Who's somebody in your life that you're grateful for? And then deliberately do something kind for them. So you might do a favor for them over the holiday season. Deliberately a favor where maybe you wouldn't have done it otherwise. Maybe you will do the kind act of reaching out to someone who's lonely, you're grateful to that person for being in your life. Maybe it's your father, maybe it's a brother, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's an old acquaintance that you haven't been in touch with, and they might be a little bit more lonely. So you reach out, you do that act of kindness and have that Zoom call or that phone call. So it's kind of like you're using your kindness to honor the gratitude that you have for them. You could play around with the strength of love in this way. So with love, a little different than kindness, where maybe it's with a family member and you're going to show you're very grateful for that family member and show a verbal appreciation for them, or a loving embrace to them, or spending some extra quality time with them. If we take the strength of spirituality, that's linked highly with gratitude. You could think to yourself, well, how, whatever your spirituality is, how might you show gratitude to whatever your sense of spirituality is? How might you show, so for example, how might you show gratitude to God, to higher power, to Allah, right? If you're someone who finds spirituality as nature, so how do you express gratitude to nature? I'm thinking of it that way. Maybe it's through nature connectedness. There's a wonderful amount of science on the value of connecting with nature, spending time in the woods or a forest, doing environmentally friendly behaviors. These would be ways to express gratitude to nature, to your spirit, whatever your sense of spirituality is, the sense of the sacred is. So those are some ways to link those particular strengths. But I want to pause for a moment before I continue and turn to the chat. I'm curious, let's just collect some ideas here from our community. So just chat only at this point. We won't raise our hands just yet. How might you show gratitude this week? Right? So what would be your behavioral action of showing gratitude this week? And, feel free to share those ideas now. Again, the more behavioral of a strategy rather than just to your mind, but behavioral, the better. So Marla says not worrying and allowing things to flow. Kira says cooking for family, so connecting kindness and gratitude there. Maria says sending notes to my entire team with my appreciation of them and why. So excellent work there with strengths. Melody says Facebook posts. Yes, we need to bring some of those positive strengths right into our social media. So good. Terry says verbal expression of gratitude. Wilma says hosting a Zoom birthday party. Nice. Jen says daily sharing my gratitude for others. And some people might do one different person a day or something. Obviously the more structure, the better. Elizabeth says smiling to people. Shanti says doing something kind for my friend. Being present, says Aaron. Sending flowers to support a person, says Beat. Linda says smiling more at people in stores. Ruth says sharing gratitude with her husband by doing the laundry for him. So acts of service, cooking for friends. So lots of, I won't read them all because you guys are 28 people ahead of me. I can't keep up. 31 people ahead of me now. But maybe this is something we could create into a word cloud, or at the very least, you can all just read them and kind of get ideas from them. By the way, you could also you can copy paste them all. So right now, I'm just kind of, you can how to do that, where you scroll down across all of them and then hit Control-C on most computers and then Control-V to paste it into a Word file. So you could actually, read all of these later and kind of capture them. So really wonderful ideas here. And it just shows the kind of the wide range of ways that we can express gratitude behaviorally. So,
Ryan,
everybody.
I just wanted to chip in that we actually have a new person who's joined today, and he's just discovered that gratitude, first of all, he was astonished to find that gratitude is a character strength, and also he's pleased to find that gratitude is one of his top strengths, and he's highlighted that he's going to express gratitude by pointing out the strengths he appreciates in other people.
Excellent. That's wonderful. And great way to, whoever that is, way to kind of jump in and get started by using your strengths right away. So that's the idea here, is we discover our highest character strengths and we try to find new ways to use them. We think about how we've used them before and how we're using them now to build up that mindfulness of our character strengths, because for the most part, we usually don't spend much time doing that. And then how can we find new ways to use them? So a great example of how you'll be doing that. Thank you. So in terms of the most common gratitude practices that are studied by researchers, and again, where there's some benefit in doing this, usually there's a little bit of benefit to well-being and a little bit of benefit to lowering depression, are some of the bigger benefits of these practices that I'll share. So I'll share 3 of them. So one of them is what many of you mentioned, is simply expressing the gratitude to a person. So what we call interpersonal gratitude, where we share it verbally with that particular person. We share what we're grateful for, and we do it live. We do it right there in the moment. Now, another way to do it is through journaling. So I think many of you have heard of what's called gratitude letters. And so this is an intervention that's been studied. And so this is where you sit down with your computer or your smart device, or believe it or not, old-fashioned pen and paper. I think that's still possible. And you write a letter, a formal letter to somebody that you've never properly thanked in your life. Now, it might be a teacher from 20 years ago. It might be a sport coach. It might be a therapist. It might be your mother who's no longer alive. It might be God. It might be your child who you've never really said thank you to in a way that maybe they've really captured and heard. So you see the idea. Any entity or person you could do this to, living or deceased. And you write that letter, and you'd be surprised as to what comes out of you. I'll just say that much. It sounds kind of basic and obvious, and oh yeah, I'm sure I've done it before, and like you'll come up with a couple sentences. But if you really think about the how, the why you're grateful to that person, and what they did for you in your life, and how much it impacted you, I mean, it gets emotional really quick, and emotional in a good way, a powerful way, and that in and of itself is the intervention, to just write the letter. Now, a second intervention is to then if the person's living, to hand deliver the letter, or to send it to preferably in the moment, so it wouldn't just be emailing it, but where you can actually read the letter out loud. That's a different intervention that is looked at in the context of bravery, because you're being brave to share your emotional or your thoughtful gratitude letter. So you don't have to do that part. The main part of the intervention that's been studied by the researchers is the writing of the letter. So that's the second one. And then the third one, probably the one that's second most common, is counting your blessings. And so that's formally done in a nice structured way, which is important with character strengths practice, a structured plan, a structured practice that you do each day. And so this is to at the end of the day, pen to paper, fingers to iPad or phone, and you type out 3 things that you're grateful for and why you think those things occurred during the day. And you write those things out. So you're grateful for, and it can be very small things. So I'm grateful for when the person held the door for me, and I was carrying a lot of different things, and so that was an extra thing of support for me. I'm grateful for the extra steps that the post office took to be cautious during COVID-19 pandemic. I'm grateful for feeling energized most of the day, and I had a nice energizing walk and so on. So you do that. You think, and you say why those good things occurred. And the challenge I always give to people when they do these counting their blessing strategies, a key tip, I think, is to never repeat yourself from day to day. So you have this gratitude journal, and you think of 3 things you're grateful for, and you write about them, to always come up with new ones each day. So you don't just say, I'm grateful for my family, my health, and my dog. And the next day, still grateful for my family, my health, and my dog. That's not going to get you very far. The idea is to keep thinking of new things, and then what you're doing is expanding your gratitude. And if you did that for a year, it doesn't take that long, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the end of each day, really practicing your gratitude. At the end of a year, think of that. You would have come up with over 1,000 examples of gratitude. You would have expressed it or felt it 1,000 times. So if that's not going to boost up a character strength, then I'm not quite sure what will. So the idea is to keep it up as a plan. But not everybody likes doing that activity. So that activity is not for everybody. Some people prefer the interpersonal stuff. Some people prefer the letter. Some people prefer using gratitude in their meditation. There's lots of different ways to experience and express gratitude. So don't feel trapped into any one activity. Do what's going to work for you. I want to offer, before we move into the meditation, one resource. And so that resource is the website gratefulness.org. Gratefulness.org. And so this is represented through probably the most well-known gratitude figure, I'll say. And it's a Benedictine monk who for 30 or 40 years has been talking about gratitude. So long before there was ever a science of gratitude. And his name is Brother David Stendhal Rast. So there's a number of resources on the site, gratefulness.org. And by the way, his book, I believe it's called Gratefulness. And it's dated back to, I think it was 1984 when he wrote it. So it's kind of a classic when thinking about gratitude and practicing gratitude. And there's been some, beautiful videos. I don't know if they're all on his site, but done with gratitude. But before we turn to the community and hear a little bit more and open up people's lines, let's do a meditation here and practice this a little bit. So this meditation, I'm going to call Thank You, Thank You. And the reason is was inspired by, you might have heard of the late poet Mary Oliver, who has written beautifully on mindfulness and strengths and all sorts of different topics of meaning. And she was once asked in an interview toward the end of her life, what is spirituality? And she said, it's when I go about my day and with everything I encounter, every animal, every person, every problem, every good thing, I say, thank you, thank you. After encountering each different person or animal or environment or thing or difficulty, which I just find to be enormously powerful and a great testament to how powerful gratitude can be applied into everything, into our daily life. That sums it up right there, of how we can bring it into the bones of our body, to the fabric throughout our mind, to our interactions and so on. And so whether it's saying those words, thank you out loud, or whether it's saying it in our head, that we're doing that, we're cultivating that mindset. So thanks to her, I then created this meditation on that we can encounter right now. So we can begin and end this with the bell. So I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable with that right now, and bringing your attention to your in-breath and your out-breath, which means to really feel your in-breath, really feel your out-breath happening right now, happening here. I invite you for just a moment to think about one of your family members. And as you image them, as you think about them, say to yourself or out loud, thank you, thank you. Now picture another family member, very briefly in your mind. Picture their face, how they look, and say to yourself or out loud, thank you, thank you. Now picture your closest friend. Thank you. Thank you. Picture your favorite neighbor, whoever lives somewhat close to you. Thank you. Thank you. Now picture a neighbor who you're not particularly fond of. Thank you. Thank you. Still breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in gratitude. Breathing out appreciation. Now picture your home, whether that's an apartment, a room, a house, or wherever you are right now. Thank you. Thank you. Now think of the tree that's closest to you in proximity. It might be right out your window. It might be 5 blocks away. Thank you. Thank you. Now picture the body of water closest to you in proximity. Thank you. Thank you. Now picture an animal. Animal inside your home or outside your home. Thank you. Thank you. Now consider your mind, all your thoughts and feelings and relating, your whole mind. Thank you. Thank you. Now feel your heart beating with your hand or without your hand touching it. Thank you. Thank you. Now get a sense for your aliveness. You are alive right now at this time in the world, regardless of your age, regardless of your level of physical health. You're alive. Get a sense for that aliveness. Thank you. Thank you. Feel your hands. Look at your hands. The amount of people and things and uses of your hands is far more than we could possibly count. Thank you. Thank you. Now your feet. All the steps you've taken in your life. Again, more than you could count to. Thank you. Thank you. And now run through your signature strengths. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Thank you. Now consider your strength of gratitude, wherever it is in your profile from 1 to 24. Thank you. Thank you. Now consider one of your struggles, one of the things that causes you suffering. Thank you. Thank you. Now consider your whole self, which is all of the character strengths, all the other parts of your personality, your whole body, all of your struggles, all of your life experiences, what we call wholeness. Consider that as best you can right now. Thank you. Thank you. We might do a final thank you by opening our eyes and turning to the community, many of the faces you can see on your screen, to our whole community here of United in Strengths, those here, those not here. Thank you. Thank you.